within the last few years. Yeah, within the last 10 years, for sure. Okay. Siman Samaches, Ha'im mechuyev lahatzil chavero mipikeach she'omed latet kenas. Are you obligated to save your friend from a cunning person who could penalize him or to impose a penalty? Let's see what the circumstance is. She'ela. Ani ba'al kiosk. Mol ha'kiosk sheli yesh chaniya v'tashlum shel ha'iriya. I have a kiosk, and it doesn't say what the kiosk sells, but opposite my kiosk, there's an office for payment for the iriya, or I guess the municipal taxes. It's sort of like service. What would you get? Service Ontario. Upa'amen yesh rechavim shechonim b'chaniya shetam zmanam. And many times there are cars that park in the front of the municipal building, and their meter expires. And I see that a pikeach, I guess here the word pikeach is a person who's in charge, like the officer, the meter maid, is coming to penalize them. Let's see how they translate the word pikeach over here. I hope I'm translating it right. That's usually how you translate that word. But I guess in modern Hebrew, the word pikeach means like the meter maid. Let's see. The inspector. Yeah. 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 Let's see. Okay, so it's not pronounced pikeach. It's pronounced pikach. Okay, so it's slightly different. That's the reason why. So the pikach comes, and she's coming to give parking tickets. Ve'im ani ashal shel shekel b'madchana chaniya b'shvilam. But if I put in a shekel into the meter to save them, em lo yikablu kenas. They won't get a parking ticket. Ha'im ani mechuyav lahutzi ktsat kesef kedei lahatzil et bal harechav mitashlum knas gavoa. Am I obligated to put in a small investment of a shekel in order to save someone from getting a major parking ticket? Parking ticket could be 50 shekels, 100 shekels. Moshe, you have some experience? Okay. Ve'im shilamti ha'im ani achol levakesh mibal harechav. And if I do pay, like if I do save him, because I put in a shekel into the meter, am I able to request from the car owner, sheyishalim li 50% mehaknas sheyitzalti, and now he's becoming a businessman. Give me half of what the ticket you would have gotten, because I saved you. So here
I was just going to start by saying, "Can I get my shekel
back?" That's what I thought, right? I agree with you, Paul. I thought he was just going to say, "Can I get my shekel back?" But he's saying, "Hey, this is a great business. I can save people from getting tickets and pay me for that service. Pay me half of what the parking ticket would have been." Okay, I just realized this reminds me I got to pay a ticket. Okay, Hagemara b'maseches bava metzia. That's right. Hagemara b'maseches bava metzia omeres. Adam sheroa she'alu lihigarem nezek lechavero chayav limno et hanezek. So the Gemara in Bava Metzia simply says that if you see someone is about to incur damage, you have an obligation to prevent that damage from befalling him. Kagon. The example that's provided by the Gemara is sheyesh lechavero sadeh v'hanahar ole al gidotav ve'alu lishtof et hasadeh. So the river banks are swelling because there's been a lot of rain. Your friend has a field that's right near the river, and if the river overflows, it's going to wash away his whole field. So chayav la'asot kol asher b'yecholto limnoa etes. The levee's going to break. When the levee breaks, that's not good. So you have to do whatever you can to prevent the damage. This is within the realm of the mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda, of restoring lost items. If you know your friend is about to incur a loss, you have an obligation to try and save him. And therefore, based on that Gemara, it seems clear that every Jew has an obligation to spend a relatively small amount of money in order to save his friend from any large form of damage. Now, the Makor Baruch on the footnote says, "Lichora kol divrei Rabbeinu amurim keshabal harechav shilem keroi, ela she'achar kach nenas velo yachal lachzor bizman." It seems that the case that we're discussing here from Rav Sharaga is where the guy in the car who parked his car put in the right amount of money in the meter, but for some reason got detained and wasn't able to get back to his car in time, and the meter ran out. But if a person just recklessly parked his car without putting any money in the meter, or you could demonstrate that he was in any way negligent, then there's no obligation to do the mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda. Why? Then, if a guy's going to be reckless, and it's not my responsibility because he's sort of throwing away his money.
To be more responsible than you.
That's right. So there are times when a person will just, speed down the street, pull into the sidewalk, run out of the car. The circumstances there indicate that he's got something really urgent to attend to, and maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he's prepared to get the ticket. But it could also be maybe his wife's in labor, or yeah. But if he's in such a rush, it's hard to know the situation. Yeah, right. Well, the guy's in his kiosk. He probably has nothing to do all day except to watch people park their cars in front of the area. Okay. So anyway, that's just one thing to keep in mind. So, yeah.
Saving someone from a natural catastrophe here, the government generates income by charging people for not paying their responsibilities. So you're taking away from the government revenue by just feeding the meter.
You're really viewing that as taking away from the government their revenue? That's interesting that you're looking at it that way. I'm trying to think. But the government is imposing a penalty.
It's like where someone is. Yeah. And if not, they'll just tax everyone more to get them.
But it's still a penalty. It's still a penalty that a guy has to pay.
Right.
And it's going to cost him a lot of money.
But if he was really,
yeah. So you're both saying that the difference between a river washing away a guy's field is that there's no way for him to, it's not like he's acting in any negligent way. Here, there's a certain degree of negligence because if he really cared about not getting a parking ticket, he would have come back quickly and come back in time and put the coin in the meter. Mm-hmm.
money for purposes, spring, bringing instructions opposed to, it's like, should you tell someone that there's a speeding camera so that it slows down for 5 minutes and then picks up their speed? The reason there's a speeding camera there is to slow people down, but if everyone gets notified that that's where the camera is, they'll only slow down there. And
I don't have a problem with that. That I can sleep easy by notifying people. I don't think that there's any ethical lapse there. Yeah.
everywhere.
Then by you flashing the lights or whatever you speed camera, you're doing the same thing. In fact, you're doing it better because speed camera doesn't tell them about the fact that it's speeding in a dangerous area until after the fact. So,
Yeah, but I would argue that the fact that people don't know where speeding cameras are slows them down everywhere, as opposed to they'll just slow down when they're told that it is.
Does he have a problem with a red light camera?
Yeah, that's what Paul's talking about, the red light camera or the speeding camera. Yeah,
Anyway, it's a philosophical thing, I suppose, but.
okay, all right.
I suppose the difference would be will be the time difference between the amount of paid for the parking area on the meter and what time they actually returned. If they put in for an hour and they came back an hour and 10, okay, so you held up and give them 10 minutes or whatever.
Well, look, I'm the guy in the kiosk who sees on real time what's going on. I'm not going to put a coin in the meter if the meter maid hasn't showed up. It's a question because a lot of times you can get away with a 10-minute lapse or even an hour lapse if no one shows up to administer the ticket. It's when I see the meter maid coming. Is that a sexist thing to call someone a meter maid?
No,
Yeah.
you can say that.
Yeah.
That's why a parking attendant probably works.
Just thinking of lovely Rita, meter maid. So the meter guy
Song should be better.
is coming. Yeah.
But she has to turn it before the slot goes, and all of a sudden the time goes back up here. It covers.
Oh, wow.
So-
Yeah, but nothing works like that.
That's the
anymore.
old-fashioned meters.
It looks like that.
Yeah, yeah, they don't.
Can I just try one
Everything's
more?
on an app now, Rabbi.
Yeah,
Can I
yeah.
just try one more approach to my theory that I think would be more clear to
Yeah,
everybody
mhm.
else?
Yeah.
Kashrut, people checking on from the core that it's things are operating properly in a restaurant.
Uh-huh.
So if the restaurant owner knew that the guy comes only on Monday mornings, then that's when he'd be careful. He wouldn't be careful any other time, as opposed to he could come anytime. I need to be careful all the time. And
Yeah,
that's my
but there's
analogy.
there's a fundamental difference between the two things that you're describing. One is there is an ethical concern if someone is only careful about kashrus when the mashgiach comes by, because by being lax in kashrus, you are doing something unethical. You're claiming to be 100% kosher and you're only 98% kosher. And that's not right. You have an obligation, you have an ethical and moral responsibility to your customers to provide them with 100% kashrus. Over here, there is there's a social contract that you make with the city that you live in, that you're going to pay for parking on a certain street. However, that social contract is not as ethically binding, at least not in my mind, as a halachic imperative to that when you say something is kosher, you have to commit yourself to it.
I was thinking of the analogy of speeding.
Yeah, well, speeding, I think, is the same thing. There are many people who are at a very safe speed because they're skilled drivers if they go 10 kilometers per hour above the speed limit. But there's two Latin terms, and I always forget them. One is the law is designed with logic, and the other one is the law is designed with rules that may not always, the logic doesn't always apply. You know what I'm talking about, then? Okay, can you send it to me later? Yeah, juris something and juris another thing. Yeah. Okay. That's okay, Paul. It's all right. I'm just not going to speed in front of you, and I'm not going to rely on you to put money in my meter. Okay. Yeah. Umnum. Yeah, what a friend you are. You turned out to be. Yeah. Umnum. Pashat shabal harechev lo tzarich l'shalim lo 50% mehaknas shemana mimenu. He says, but what's clearly obvious is that there's no moral or halachic obligation for the guy who owns the car to give the guy half of the cost of a ticket because he saved him from getting a parking ticket. Because This is no different from the case of Mavriach Ari. That's really what the Gemara calls it when I save someone from damage. It's chasing away the lion. Like if you see that a lion is about to attack your friend's flock, if you can chase away the lion, lots of luck. But if you can chase away the lion, then then you're obligated to do so. Aval et hashekel. Okay, so what case? He's bringing a case from the Gemara. Shahamavriach hari mechavero, poter chavero milashalim lo ma shehitzelo so hamavriach. That if someone chases away a lion from my flock, I'm poter from paying the guy for having chased away the lion. Bahasvara baza. What's the svara? Ki hamavriach hari lo hevi lo shum toeles kaspit. He says, you arguably did not bring me any financial benefit. Ragoram shalo yihiyalo hefset. What you did is you prevented me from incurring loss, but you didn't bring me a positive financial accrual. The imkain, which is an interesting argument. It is a twist. You saved me from a loss, but you didn't bring me, but you didn't bring me positive cash flow, right?
And I say, I do something to stop that $100 being lost, whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
You haven't lost that $100, you still have that $100. You can say I haven't had a positive, I haven't gained.
You're right.
But
You're right.
Still at $100 better off.
Right. So I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. In other words, what difference does it make whether I saved you from a loss or I gave you positive, I earned money for you? At the end of the day, you're ahead, and the guy's better off, etc. I think here that Chazal are making a judgment call based on the obligations that Jews have towards each other, that we have to make sure that if a guy needs help, like for example, there's a mitzvah in the Torah of parika. If you see your friend's animal struggling under its load, you have to help either unload the animal or readjust the load so the animal can continue going. Are you allowed to be compensated for that? Yeah, it's an interesting. Yeah. Right. I don't know. I don't remember what the Gemara says, that if in the course of doing Hashavas Aveda, you incur some kind of physical injury, what is the obligation of the person who lost the object? Svara would say that that the guy's not obligated, because yes, you were doing what the Torah commands you to do. Shkoyach, and I really appreciate you're going out of your way to say, but I didn't want you to throw out your back in order to, like, if by saving my pet cat, you ended up getting run over. You ended up getting hit by a car, and now you're hung up in the hospital for 3 months. I'm not going to pay your medical bills. So svara is that, yes, a person has to pay for whatever costs were incurred for retrieving a lost object, but not if they weren't directly related to the lost object. Remember, that's what we learned in the past.
I think what the donkey is, you don't get paid for unloading, but you get paid for loading.
Yes, that's true. As you're doing a chesed by helping the animal and helping your friend. So the point is that if you're providing a service that a person would have to pay for, so then you're allowed to charge. But if you're doing a chesed and you're saving someone from financial harm, so then you're not entitled to compensation. The Imkeni says, "Hu adin kan shara garm shelo yilo knas v'lo hivilo revach kaspi al kain poter milashalim lo alzeh." So therefore, similarly over here, where you just prevented a guy from getting a parking ticket, but you didn't give him positive cash flow, So he's putter from compensating you for that service. It's a great service. And he gets a big shkoyach for it. But avalet hashekel, and that's now we go into the next case. Shesam b'madchan tzarich. I hope I'm pronouncing that word correctly. Madchan is, I guess, the parking meter. Let me just make sure I'm pronouncing it correctly. Madchan, parking meter. Let's see. Madchan. Okay, so yes. So the money that you put in, it's my friend, it's Siri's Israeli cousin, Suri. Okay, so anyway, Surala. Okay. Avalata shekel shesam b'madchan tzarich bal harechav l'shalim lo b'chazara. But certainly the shekel you have to pay back, right? Da'anan sahadi shebal harechav nichalei bazeh l'shalim shekel shelo yechayvu oto b'knas. Because it's what we call an anan sahadi in the language of the Gemara, that we the public testify, we can affirm, it's public knowledge that the owner of the car is more than happy that someone put out a shekel on his behalf. So he can't say afterwards, I didn't care about getting a ticket. You didn't have to put in a shekel for me. I'm not paying you back your shekel. Go take a hike. No, you can't say that because any normal person would be happy to pay a shekel to avoid having to get a parking ticket. So therefore, the fact that I laid out the money without your knowledge is irrelevant because any normal person in that situation would want a stranger to put out a shekel on his behalf and would be happy to pay it back. It's not ribbis. It wouldn't be ribbis. It would be a thank you. It's giving you a matana. It's giving you a matana. I don't see that, although because he's not. Ribbis is when I pay you well, we should think about it before making a flip answer. But, Mordechai's point is, I laid out money an hour ago, and because of that hour ago that I laid out the money, I did you a favor. And now you want to pay me back, but you want to pay me back more than what I laid out, so you're paying me back. The question is, it's really the way you look at it is like this. If you, Mordechai, are giving me 2 shekels because you appreciate so much of having laid out the money for that full hour before you got back, maybe it could be a form of ribbis. But if you're giving it to me as a matana, then it's just out of gratitude. Then it probably is not ribbis. But it's an interesting thing. Yeah.
I deserve a present.
I deserve a present. He's not. One thing is, I'm not so sure.
If I choose to give 2 shekels back, then it's my choice. I haven't been asked for it. So it would be a gift.
I mean, is there an issue that still looks like ribbis?
Mechzi Karibis. I don't know if you could say Mechzi Karibis because there was no Kitsitsa, there was no stipulation at the outset. It's one thing if I stipulate at the outset, listen, I'll lay out a shekel, I expect 2 shekels back for this service. Yeah. So then that's one of the things you need for something to look like ribbis is a Kitsitsa, usually. All right, it's been a long time since I've learned Hilchos ribbis, but there may be a shmek of ribbis here, but I don't know if it's enough to rise to an Isser D'Rabbanan. V'haraya lazeh, shehu shilem al hascholas hazman, kidei shelo yikabel knas, is that he's paying for the hascholas hazman, for the new time on the meter, so that he shouldn't get this penalty. He says, now, So the Makor Baruch says, "Va'afal gav de b'mavriach ari anitzol potter milashalem lamatzil afilu midmei hotzaosav." He says the Gemara's case of a mavriach ari chasing away a lion from the flock, the guy who did that service is not entitled to even charge for his costs. Like let's say for the time that I chased away the lion, it took me away from my work, or I missed a meeting, right? I'm not allowed to charge for that. The imkain l'chora hachanami yapater mi lasamlo et hashekel shahotzi. So therefore, why can't you say that the guy who was saved from the parking ticket is putter from paying the shekel to the guy who put the coin in the meter? Mikol makam kvar huchichu atoisus bevavakama di'im hahezeku vadai chayev hanitzal l'shalom l'matzalas hotzaosot kiyun sham. Right, Tosfos qualifies that Gemara. When the Gemara says that I'm putter from paying the mavriach ari, the guy who chased away the lion, is only because there were unexpected expenses. But when the expenses are happening 100% of the time, every time I save a guy's flock from a lion, it's going to cost me X number of dollars, and it's certain and it's expected. So then Tosfos says that the guy does have to pay for the mavriach hari. And that's the way a number of other poskim say it as well. So, aval. However, this is a big however. If you don't know the owner of the car, and you know for a fact that he's not going to give you back the shekel, how do you know he's not going to give you back the shekel? So then you're not obligated to put the money in the meter. Oh, I see. In other words, maybe the situation is such where you're not in the kiosk, but you're going to have to leave. Like you just happen to be walking down the street and you notice that the meter maid is coming to give this guy a ticket. You're putter from putting a coin in since the guy's never going to know who you are. Kevin shenemar b'Torah, efes hilo yihiyeh v'cha evyon, avedaso va'avedas acherim, avedaso kodemes. And this is based on the fact that you're not obligated to incur financial loss in order to restore someone else's lost object. So if it's going to end up costing you money, and you know you're not going to get it back because you're just walking by, so then you're not mechuyev to put in the money. Well, you're in Israel. Come on, you're in the middle of Yerushalayim. Come on. And you look at the guy's plates, he's not an Arab, right? You guys, all right. Have a good Shabbos, everybody. We'll continue this next week. Oh,
Shabbat shalom.